What's up, guys, and welcome back to Greedy Pete's Garage. I'm your host, Greedy Pete, and on today's episode, we're getting that engine out and the front clip back on. So I'm going to get the accessories off first, as well as the harmonic balancer, and then we'll pull this engine. I'll go over the mounts that I made for this, the engine mounts for it as well. I got to do some finish welding on them, as well as a couple more modifications to them. Additionally, once we get this engine out, I'll go over the adapter plate that's made by Diesel Pump UK and some things that I needed to do to that to make sure that everything was 100%. Alrighty, guys, I got the pistons out. These things look great. The bearings look in great condition, you know, normal wear, if any wear really. And the journals look amazing too. This heat discoloration, that's not from it running hot or anything. That's actually when they hardened the journals at the factory. But as you can see, I mean, this thing is smooth like butter. Absolutely amazing. And this engine had about 175,000 miles, so it's in great condition. I'm super happy with it. Only other thing that I think I have to do is just double check on the pulling out the oil squirters, because the oil squirters actually blast oil up underneath, and these two holes right here, that's actually cooling for the piston as well as oiling for the rod end, or excuse me, the piston end on the rod. So I just got to double check those because the block will be honed. I don't know if it needs to be decked. I don't know if the head needs to be decked. We're gonna find out, talk with the engine builder and see what he says. You know, he'll tell me exactly what it needs or what it doesn't. He's a great guy. I'll put his info on the screen as well. So yeah, I'm gonna leave the crank in here though. I'm gonna pull off a couple more of these bolts. These are the bolts for the oil pump, and then also there used to be a windage tray, or something like a windage tray. But I am gonna leave the crank in. I'm gonna let him take that out because I don't want the possibility of bending that. But I am going to have him balance the rotating assembly with the new rods, and I'll show you the new rods in the next clip. Little change of plans here. I actually forgot to record going over the upgraded billet rods from bensforce.com, but we'll go over those when I get them back from the machine shop. I just forgot to go over it before I dropped everything off. But I figured we'd go over the adapter plate for the CD009 transmission. This is made by Diesel Pump UK. There is a couple things that I had to do. I don't know if they're necessarily absolutely 100% required, but in my mind, I think that it would be super important to include these in the in his kit. But I actually ended up making an alignment dowel. The plate that he sends, there's no alignment dowel on there, and in my mind, there's not the holes on the bell housing are not tight enough with the supplied hardware to ensure that your input shaft is 100% in line with the back of the crank. So I figured to utilize the utilize the original dowel pin alignment hole on the bell housing, as well as one other machined location that he does include on the on his adapter plate, but I don't know, maybe I just didn't have, he just forgot to install the pin or whatnot. But this is something that I discovered months, if not years later, after I bought the kit. So I ended up making a pin and pressed that in, as well as I took a shoulder bolt and turned down the diameter to match the bell housing, the other machined bell housing bolt hole. So I figured this way I know that everything is 100% in line, and there's no, no orientation problems with the input shaft, because I don't want to be blowing out an input shaft bearing or seal or anything like that. One other thing to note about this kit, you will need to notch a section on your bell housing to utilize the factory OM606 starter. I may be trying to use a OM608 starter instead. I've heard that they're smaller, more powerful, and crank over the engine faster, so we'll go over that when it comes time. One other thing to note, again, I don't know if this will be an issue for me, but I did notice that in his kits now he includes two different pivot balls, I guess you would call them. One is longer, the other one is shorter. I believe the longer one is for the stamped steel clutch fork, and the shorter one is for the cast iron clutch fork. The cast iron one is the upgraded option, and that's what I have in my transmission as well. So we'll have to see if I can just utilize the factory pivot ball that's included. These are things that we'll have to come across when we're actually installing everything and testing out the clutch and everything like that. Make sure we have good engagement. One other thing to note, I forgot to mention this. If you kind of see, this almost looks rusty. It's actually a coating that is made by AMSOIL. This is MP heavy duty. They make MP, which is like WD-40, but MP heavy duty is a incredible metal protectant. I actually use this to coat my frames on my vehicles, being in the Chicagoland area. We're in the Rust Belt. This stuff holds up to salt, water, anything you can name. It's fantastic stuff. So if you're interested, I am actually a dealer. I can ship anywhere in the nation. So if you are interested, just drop below and shoot me an email, and we can get you hooked up with any AMSOIL product. I'll get you guys some great deals. But yeah, if you want, this stuff is amazing. It goes on kind of wet, but then dries to almost like a waxy coating, and holds up incredibly. But yeah, that's the adapter plate. Overall, it's a pretty well-made piece. Also, I have the flywheel here. Flywheel is pretty well made. Not worried about this surface rust, because as soon as you start using that clutch, that rust will pop right off. But yeah, so overall, not a terrible product. One last thing to note, if you are utilizing the OM608 rear sump setup, the bottom bolts, I believe it's either all three or one of the three or two of the three don't line up, because this kit is actually meant for to bolt up and utilize every single hole with the standard front sump setup on the OM606 engines. So one or you know, a couple of these bolts won't line up. I've seen guys just throw their OM608 pan up on here and drill and tap a new hole. I'll probably do that just because, I mean, it can't hurt, it can only help. So that's one thing else to note about this. I don't know if you guys caught this, but in that last clip there, when I was showing you the clutch fork, I actually got the front clip back on the truck. So shout out to my beautiful girlfriend and her friend who helped me put this front clip back on. That was a little bit of an ordeal. Not too bad though. But I think before I actually start graphing in the frame horns on the frame, I'm going to strip off all the leftover components that were originally used for the truck. Just get this thing stripped down as much as I can, and then from there I'll probably play with the adjustment of the actual fenders to the fitment of the doors, because as you can see, I've got quite a bit of panel gap there, and my panel gaps are not very good to the doors, but or I may swap out this fender, because I do have a replacement original fender, because this was a previous terrible fix. Something got backed into it, but I may swap that fender out first before I do the actual fitment, but I want to try to get the body gaps as best as I can, and then from there I know for sure that the front clip is as close to the final fitment placement, so that all of my frame horn welding will be exactly where it needs to be. Got all the old components and clips and whatnot that I don't need off the front clip here. Pretty much the only thing that I didn't really notice was this section right here is a little bit soft where the old battery tray was. That's pretty common. I don't know if I'm going to have the battery located up here in the engine bay. I may relocate it to the back. Kind of depends on when it comes time to redoing these inner fenders. I do have the original portion that I cut out, but I'm gonna redo these sections here to allow for the Crown Vic upper mounts or upper frame mounts to be completely covered, so it looks like it came from the factory. But I was also thinking that if I do relocate my battery to the back, I think I'm going to actually cut this whole section out, since it does need to be replaced and since it is kind of thin, and I may just mirror how the other side is, because from what I know, the battery was never on the right side, or the driver's side. So I think if I could redo this inner fender so it has a perfect mirror look to it, that would be pretty sweet with the engine here. I'm not going for a show truck, but you know, I have to redo this anyway, so might as well make a couple modifications to it, make it a little bit more custom, a little bit more of what I like. We're definitely not going to do like a shaved bay, even though I mean, obviously we're gonna fill in these holes and whatnot, but we're not going for anything super crazy here. We just want it to be really nice and clean and easy to work on when inevitably we do need to do engine work. But yeah, I got all that cleaned up. I think I may play around with these inner fenders a little bit more, or I may switch over to test fitting the radiator and the intercooler, because I am doing a front mount intercooler. So it'll be all pretty nice and tight up here, but yeah.